A few months ago, I put out an animation challenge to take a scene from RWBY you thought could be improved upon, but specifically not a fight scene. There are a ton of very talented people who make awesome animated scenes with RWBY characters. However, I wanted to explore how a simple talking head scene can also be something that animators should think about. A boring talking scene can kill a show. It doesn't matter how awesome or flashy a fight is if the scenes surrounding that fight can't keep you engaged. And there's a lot of subtle nuances to a talking head scene that can make it or break it when it comes to a viewing experience. So, I presented you all with a challenge to recreate a RWBY scene. I got quite a few submissions, so let's not waste any more time and dive into what you lovely people made. Let's start with this submission by 2K20K. They've covered the scene where Ozpin talks to the kids about turning Crow and Raven into birds. An excellent choice. This scene is like the quintessential example of how RWBY fails to execute a talking head scene. The conversation is slow, the movements are boring and minimal at best, the dialogue is flaccid and characterless. Let's see how 2K has decided to improve this moment. First of all, props on the ticking clock animation. Like, even me, with like very little animation understanding, I know this was probably really hard. I especially like the note saying that it should be timed up with Ozpin's cane ticking. The setup for the scene in general is just much better thought out. Ozpin is already standing, and everyone else is doing something different. Like, they're all sitting or standing nearby, but the fact that they're all in even minorly different positions really helps to improve the visuals of the scene. It gives you something to actually look at. Something as simple as this can instantly jazz up the visuals, and it also gives the camera more opportunity to move around the different shots and angles. Rather than just sit here and stare at all the characters sitting still, you could, on subsequent viewings, pay attention to what everyone else is doing, like how Nora is stacking dust chambers, or pay attention to what Yang is doing with that raven feather back there. Lots of little things like that. It also tells us about the headspace of these characters. Weiss is sitting patiently, Yang is facing away, Jean is gripping the couch angrily, and RWBY is distracting herself with Martinaster maintenance. It highlights key aspects of their personalities. Also, it's just a nice little detail to show that RWBY would help Weiss with maintaining her weapon, since RWBY is a weapons nut and would probably love to help fix the others' weapons to better understand their inner workings. It's those little details that can flesh out a character way more than just dialogue could ever manage. This whole video is like a perfect example of how storyboards should look. There's important notes laid out for specific details, characters are all labeled so I can identify them even when there's very little actual defining features, which saves the artist on time drawing something that'll only be on screen momentarily, and also helps keeping the flow of the scene easy to follow. This is really well made. Other small details I love is Weiss having a broken tiara, kind of a lasting change from her design from after the crash of the airship, and Yang is holding a raven's feather. Giving a character a prop to hold can instantly help add visual dynamics to the scene. Yeah, it's on the nose here, but it helps a lot. It gives the character something to do with their hands other than sit there with their arms crossed. Yawn. A great example of this in RWBY itself is Crow telling the kids about the two brothers. Even Crow holding his flask adds a little bit more to his movements in the scene than any of the other four characters get. Mad Boy Jean? This is probably my favorite part, right here.
You turn them into birds.
Wait, what?
Having Ren figure it out and say the answer for Ozpin is brilliant. First of all, the redundancy of how it worked in the original show was just slow. Their disbelief makes no sense. They know about magic and maidens already, but it's cool having Ren essentially figure it out because it's a cool, subtle way to highlight how Ren is the most quick-witted of the group. He pieced it all together without needing it to be told. It's a nice little moment to give Ren more meaning in the scene rather than just sitting there. Helps it make it all feel more like a conversation rather than a lecture. This is just a really great video. Literally a perfect example of what I could have asked for. 2K, this is honestly close to professional level storyboarding, with your notes, your choice of camera angles, and the way you handle group shots is really impressive too. And for this video alone, your sound mixing is especially nice and helps to bring the scene to life. My biggest advice is to try to go darker on your outlines. There's a few shots that get a little ghosty with how light your pencil work is, and when handling big group shots like this, maybe using color here or there can help. Nothing much, but just like the Y that signifies Yang can be orange, the W for Weiss is blue, just so at a glance you can see where everyone is. Also that way, if there's anything specific color-wise that doesn't look quite right, you can spot it right away. Amazing job, fantastic start to this video. Now let's dive into this one by Patrick the Henchman. Patrick's done the scene where the Wyvern Grim erupts from the mountain. A fascinating choice, though looking through your other works and seeing your appreciation for kaijus, I guess it's not that surprising you've gone with this scene. I have had this sound effect stuck in my head for weeks because of your video. Patrick uses stop motion, and I'ma just say this now. Animation is hard, and it's very impressive, but stop motion animation? That's like playing on God mode. It is super hard, takes so much care and time and effort, and I am mega impressed with this video. Similar to what I was saying before about colors, this video is a good example on how using colors can help define the characters. In this style, you've very impressively replicated everyone's hair and general clothes outline, which is awesome. But even if you had just the colors alone, it would have helped me know who the characters are. You going the extra mile with the hair and stuff is a nice touch though. God, I am just so impressed with their expressions! They're just made out of clay, and they only have eyes, but you've done so good! Due to the limitation of being clay, I understand why you couldn't make the wyvern fly. I'm glad you were still able to make his reveal feel big and impactful despite that limitation, especially with using his tail to destroy the buildings and stuff. Patrick mentions in the beginning that they wanted to expand on the choice of music used in the scene, which I agree. The silence of the original version is kind of lacking, and your video proves how a big crescendo in the music makes it way cooler. Having Ozpin looking out the window to see the wyvern's destruction is just chef's kiss. Perfect icing on this cake, because this way it'll directly parallel Cinder later when she's looking out the window at her own reflection when she's calling up the Grim to work for her. Perfect. I love shots that worked as duality to each other. Overall, amazing video. So much fun. It proves how just a couple of key differences can really change the impact a scene has. Next, let's take a look at another stop motion vid, this one by LavenderRare. Lavender has done the scene when the kids get pissed off at Ozpin in the snow. Another scene that definitely needed some work. Lavender uses RWBY figures to animate the scene, which is a smart way to use the resources you have. I never want anyone to feel like they're limited on what they can do creatively because they don't think they have the animation or art skills to live up to something. Use what you got, have fun with what you have. Never feel like that should be a limitation to what you can do as a creative person. This kind of thing reminds me of a Warrior Cats project that similarly uses little custom painted figures to animate with. Again, understanding the limitations of the medium, this means that the characters are stuck in whatever pose/expressions they're in on the figure itself, which is fine. You can still convey the intention of the scene in other ways, especially with your voice acting. Specifically, I would suggest putting in other on-screen notes to better convey specific moments. For example, early on, Crow screams.
Don't have one.
I know you've changed the scene so he doesn't punch Oscar anymore, which is huge. Hey storytellers, do you want me to not think your main characters are assholes? Don't have them punching little boys, thank you. However, I'm not sure what he would have been doing with his scream instead. Balling up his fists, falling to his knees? Little notes like that can help clarify things in these moments when you're using your figures. Also, shout out to Lavender and DarkSaiyan for redubbing the whole scene. I'm super proud of everyone who tried their hand at voice acting for this challenge. It's not easy putting your voice on the internet, and it's not easy voicing several characters all in one video. Great job, you two. Interesting thing, Maria Is it here? I don't know if this was just because there is no Maria figure to use yet, or if this was a more important decision made behind that, but I like how you've split Maria's lines across the other characters. It helps to give Weiss and Blake more to do in the scene than they had before. Overall, this is a fun little video. Even something as small as omitting one character and rearranging the lines around made this interesting. In the future, I would love to see you go a bit more crazy with altering dialogue. The revised lines for Weiss and Blake had a lot of characterization for them. I think you could have a lot of fun pushing those limits with the other characters too. Next, let's take a look at this one by Hopia. Hopia has tackled the scene when Ruby and Yang depart for Beacon at the end of episode 1. Interesting choice. It's definitely a scene I think could be improved upon. Personally, I always think when it comes to the funnest stuff that could have been a bit better, but let's see how you've decided to tackle it. Hopia also did all of the voice work here for this video too, which was very impressive. I had to double check your email to make sure because you did super good differentiating Ruby's voice and Yang's voice. Well done. I love how you've made Yang's hug a lot more flaily. It's not only cute, but it also highlights how much taller she is and shows us how strong she is too.
Yang can't breathe. Can't breathe. Whoops, sorry.
Aw, that's a nice touch. This whole scene, Yang is much more understanding compared to the original, where she was more of just bubbly, generally upbeat. Here, Yang clearly notices Ruby isn't jazzed about being seen as special, and it comes across as a lot more sweet and caring here. Having Yang face Ruby while delivering the line, "You are special, at least to me," really hammers it home. The side hug felt kind of weird? Informal, I guess. Facing someone much more definitively shows them how much you mean what you're saying. Great stuff. Ironically, the only thing I personally couldn't think of when it came to improving the scene was exactly what you tackled. That's why I'm glad I did this challenge, because I can think of something, but it's so much more fun seeing how you all would think of something completely different from me and do it way better too. Yang and Ruby's talk before wasn't bad or anything, but the way you've changed it makes it so much more heartfelt, and I really love it. Great job. Next, let's take a look at MereeID's video, redoing the scene in Volume 4 when Blake confronts Sun about spying on her and her dad's conversation. A perfect scene to reanimate. That original had problematic abuse on Blake's part, with the overall bland cinematography with a super simple shot, reverse shot. There's plenty to play around with in terms of improving. Also, MereeID has done a fan animation of me and my sisters from our podcast before, and that video is a lot of fun and super cute, and you should check out that one too.
No concept of privacy, no respect for personal space.
Immediately, 100% improvement by having Blake's hitting be much more playful with the bopping him on his chest. You can see she's hitting him multiple times, but he's having no reaction to it. He's not actually being hurt here, and that much more properly conveys the comedic tone the original was attempting to do. Also, I love their outfits. Casual, yet fitting for the environment. It definitely feels like Blake was trying to get away from the fighter lifestyle and wanted to rest. And the messy bun being held in place with the bow is just extra cute. Fucking my boobs. Keeping both characters in frame here helps a lot. So let's talk about blocking. Blocking is basically what the characters are doing in a scene. It is critically important when it comes to filming. It's something we talk about a lot. The blocking here has Blake with her back turned to Sun. Symbolically, she is yet again running while Sun is chasing her. She's trying to leave. In this case, it's the concept of this conversation, and Sun is pursuing her because he's worried about her. Perfect blocking to really help hammer home that symbolism, not only of their friendship, but how this is Blake's whole character arc while on Menagerie. Really smart stuff. This is like next level thinking when it comes to like storyboarding and filming and stuff. Then, cutting to this close-up for the more emotional moments, better puts her face and her expressions center stage for the audience. I can perfectly sympathize with her feelings here, not only with the much more emotional expressions you've given her, but just by getting close and more personal with Blake. This weird far away shot just doesn't come close to delivering that emotion like how you've done here. Can't hand, you guys are fucking killing me with your funny notes. I love it.
I don't want your help.
Now this is how you fucking do it, is hitting your friends bad. Yes, but this highlights that. We can see Blake instantly regrets what she just did, perhaps for a moment, making her realize that's exactly what Adam has done before. Also, with your blocking here, it implies it would have gone into slow motion to highlight both Sun's and Blake's shock to the hit. A perfect parallel to their first encounter, even from like a framing perspective. We've gone from Volume 1, where it went slow-mo for Sun to wink at Blake, the initiation of what would become their friendship, to here, going slow-mo for this betrayal of that friendship. Perfect symbolism and through line. So smart, I love it. I also really like your added dialogue to the scene. It helps make Sun come across as a lot more competent and like he actually has agency. You've given him much more conviction, especially this line of, "But I'm going to do something." Ugh, I wish Sun could have said this, it sounds so much better. Also, mad applause for animating his gunchucks. Everyone, applaud! Come here and applaud! This couldn't have been easy to animate. Having Sun take the initiative with chasing Ilya also works out great. It not only lines up really well with what he is trying to do, go after the White Fang, it also just wouldn't really make sense for Blake to go first, like how she did in the original. She just had this big speech about how she wants to rest and leave the White Fang stuff behind, but then she instantly goes running after Ilya? Sloppy. This just way smarter. This was another absolutely fantastic piece. You've elevated everything with the scene here. This gives both characters so much more development than I ever could have expected. Well done. Next, let's go with Disguised Zoroark submission. They chose the scene when the team first bumps into Penny. I think a lot of Volume 1 has a lot of potential when it comes to reanimating their scenes. Again, another perfect use of colors for this video.
No, he got away!
Sometimes it's the little things that can really help a moment. Weiss's more angry or determined expression here reads much better compared to her weirdly sad expression from the episode proper. Also, Weiss's recoil from Penny here. See, this is what I mean by covering Volume 1 moments. Volume 1 kinda has to go ham with the character's movements due to the animation style and the animation program being used. Weiss's whole-ass hair flip feels kind of excessive, but I know they had to do it because otherwise her hair was just gonna like go through her body. This much more crunched up recoil seems a lot more likely to be someone's reaction to the scenario. Weiss especially. God, you draw Penny so cute! Look at her! I miss her! I like how you have her little ahoge thing standing upright when she gets excited. I also think the way you have her stand up is not only a lot funnier than what she does in the show, but also would better warrant the gag of the girls taking a step backwards, or like in your case, having Ruby fall over, which I think was better than the step backwards gag anyway. The little rose petals that flutter when Ruby stands up or runs after the girls is another nice touch, alongside having Weiss helping her stand back up in the first place. You've easily improved the humor of this moment. Great stuff. Next up, let's take a look at Doki Draws' submission. They've covered the scene where Crow and Raven talk to each other in Higanbana, a scene that could really get a facelift. This is another perfect scene to highlight the boring, bland camera movements, character actions, etc., etc. Right off the bat, I love your art style. I know it's heavily taking inspiration from Panty and Stocking's art direction, but that's a really great art style, and I also really love it. It's very aesthetically pleasing, and you nail it. I love how you've made the whole scene a lot darker. It really sets the tone a lot better than the warm lighting the original had. This feels much more menacing, and makes me feel like Crow is walking into a trap, or at the very least, a dangerous situation. Let's go into a deep dive with the character placement for this one. These two shots of Crow and Raven opposite each other in profile is super smart. Not only is it a visual shorthand of hammering home how they're on opposite sides, as it were, but it also highlights the divide between them. They're sitting at the same table, yet we can't even see the other one in the same shot. It implies a distance between them, not so much physically, but emotionally, followed up by this wide shot where we can see the two from the same direction, but now they're both on screen. This is over Crow's line of talking about family family. Essentially, this shot paired with this line is hinting at the idea of we were once closer. It's really good. These 3 shots as a whole are a lot smarter and more visually entertaining than what the original show had. I really love how Raven's wrist grab is a lot more violent looking and really rattles his whole hand around and portrays her quick-tempered frustrations a lot better. Also, having her standing more upright feels a lot more imposing. This hunched thing she does always felt weird. This way it much better conveys the idea that Raven is the one with any power in this moment. I also really like your version of the bird transformation.
Does Salem have it?
I also like how she does the transformation while she's talking. It really conveys the idea that she's dangerous, that this is someone we should be worried about. It foreshadows her being an opponent of theirs in the future, and it's cool. This final shot being in stark color silhouette just feels very RWBY appropriate. Like, it feels similar to the idea of some of the other silhouetted shots RWBY has had, and after watching this video, it makes me wish they would play around with it a lot more. Just great stuff all the way around. While we're on Crow, let's take a look at Pretty Weird Duck. They've chosen the scene when RWBY talks to Crow about getting their licenses. A visually pretty bland scene with really good dialogue, and Pretty Weird Duck has definitely gone ham on fixing that. First thing, keeping the 2 in regular chairs gives them a lot more mobility and freedom to move around compared to the bleacher type setup from the show. Also, like I was saying about props, having them holding plates with cake is a nice touch to give them something to be doing with their hands.
And finally getting the Atlas part, hitting your license part, or they're not quite disclosing everything to Ironwood part.
The poses are fun, and I think they're cute. They might be a little over the top, but I found myself kind of loving this side of Crow, especially with Crow having recently found a deeper friendship with Clover just a little bit before this scene. I would definitely think Crow might be in higher spirits, and would be more willing to be a bit more goofy and having fun with his poses to make his niece laugh. Also, using the other characters in the background to better highlight Crow's line of, "You're trusting others," is super smart. Not only are their antics back there adorable, but it really helps hammer home what Crow is saying. Also, the moment of Crow remembering Summer and little baby RWBY is really nice. We don't generally get to see memories popping up in the show, so as a suggestion to maybe keep this moment a bit more diegetic with the scene, perhaps Crow could have pulled out his scroll and pulled up a picture of Summer and baby RWBY instead. That way both he and RWBY could look at it together. Just a suggestion, what you have already is good enough. I really like RWBY's hand movement here.
Her last mission, was that another Oz secret?
The final moment of RWBY eating Crow's cake, he realizes and she gives him her slice, is just another really cute touch and visual flair for the scene. Because I noticed that the cake was disappearing, but I was like, who's eating it? It's not him. Also, it plays into their general playful yet caring attitude with each other, and it gives Crow a reason to call RWBY a brat here, which makes his line feel a lot more natural. This one is just really nice. I honestly loved this whole video. It's very fun and it's entertaining, and I love it. Next up, let's take a look at FloofArtist's vid. Floof's gone with the scene in Volume 2 when Oobleck and RWBY see the Goliaths for the first time. I've always really liked this scene, so I'm curious how you think you can improve on it. Well, I already love this choice of music. Really lavishing over the reveal of the Goliaths definitely give them a lot more impact. I like how you've had Oobleck more firmly put up his hand to stop RWBY's gun. It not only fits his more high-strung personality, but it also shows how serious he is when he tells her not to shoot it. Cutting in closer to Oobleck's face for his line about the Goliaths not still being mindless is a nice touch. It gives words more weight when you can get up close to whoever's saying them. In the show proper, this moment feels like a history lesson. Here it feels a lot more like a warning. And getting to see Oobleck's much more concerned expression during his dialogue helps a lot with that. Similarly with RWBY's line of "what are they doing?" and his response of "waiting," this moment now really foreshadows the Grim attack we'll end up seeing in Volume 3. This scene has gone from some interesting facts about other types of Grim to something really intense is going to happen, and we're establishing and setting up that concept here. Really cool stuff. And having Oobleck turn away so so seriously kind of hints to us that he knows what the problem is. He's thinking of Salem right now. There's a lot of heavy lifting for Oobleck in this vid, and I love it. More Oobleck is more better in my books. Having his explanation of why he became a huntsman being one long shot is a cool idea, kind of giving us a better example about how this city was destroyed, and it symbolizes what he wants to protect with his knowledge, especially the transition of it slowly turning into what it once was, before fading back into the wreckage it is today. Fantastic use of a visual medium. A smart and impressive vid all the way around. Great job. Next up, let's take a look at Holly K7 Speed Paint's submission. Holly's gone with the scene in Volume 2 when John learns Weiss came to the dance by herself. Lots of opportunity to elevate the visuals here, so let's dive in. Look at that smile. Look at that cute old man smile. How adorable. Also having her hand him her drink. So cute. Fun touch. Already so much fun. Look at Coco and Velvet back there! Yay! I love Jean's bow tie. What a much more Jean appropriate vibe. You've given everyone fantastic outfits, honestly. And look at the way you drew Ren's hair! So freaking pretty. I also just like getting to see everyone else having a good time together while Jean and RWBY talk about being socially awkward. It really hammers home what they're talking about. Also having RWBY and Jean smiling while they clink their glasses together is just nicer tonally. In the show, they look fucking miserable, and it's such a weird downer. Here, it much better conveys the idea that they're happy they can talk to each other, but they're just out of their element when it comes to partying.
Well, come on. Not many people can pull off blue hair.
This is cute. This is definitely a visual gag that would have totally gelled well in early RWBY's comedy style. Interesting choice having Weiss sitting down by herself when Jean looks over at her. When RWBY says Weiss had too much to focus on, having her look real busy like the show proper had made it feel like RWBY was right. Here she feels much more casual, and it better highlights that Weiss was lying about that. Also, I like how it looks like she's just been sitting there staring sadly at Neptune and the others the whole time. Also, I'm happy you kept RWBY drinking out of his glass. It's just a funny moment in general. The scene wouldn't be the same without it. You also convey RWBY's confusion really well through the whole scene. A lot of this video is just fixing the mood and keeping things a lot more fun and lighthearted before Jean gets mad, and it's really refreshing. Great stuff. And finally, we have our last video of today. This one was worked on by Null and Prickly Pen. They've done John's nighttime training scene, an already emotionally impactful moment to try and reanimate. I'm excited, let's dive in. Right off the bat, I like how RWBY's nightmare has real visuals to it. This foggy, dreamlike effect is a lot more chilling than just hearing Pyrrha's voice. The artwork of this whole video is absolutely beautiful and fantastic. I was already a fan of Null's artwork, what a treat for me. I'm glad you've kept the build-up to Jean's training relatively the same. An important part of reanimating something is knowing when to not ruin a good thing. Keeping the camera on an up-close shot of Jean's eyes when Pyrrha says go feels a lot better to me. Like, you can tell he's more listening to her voice rather than watching the video, because he knows if he watches the video, he's going to get distracted by seeing her again. Also, the moves you've had Jean do look way better. Just his simple swing is kinda bland, honestly. Here he's doing like actual jabs and blocks and parries and stuff. Just smarter choreography in general. Here's the real chilling part. It fades into a memory. We're back on that roof in Beacon, and when I saw this for the first time, oh my heart! This cross between reality and his memory is so poignant. Like, in actuality, we can guess that he's just looking at his scroll, but even just seeing this video of Pyrrha brings him back to that moment when she was still alive. Keeping the camera still on this moment while Pyrrha has her monologue really gives the scene extra weight. We're really seeing things through Jean's eyes here, and it helps to put us into his state of mind emotionally. Only cutting away from Pyrrha in the one moment he realizes what she was trying to say, but didn't have the courage to. It's just so heartbreaking, and then it's such a chilling transition back to reality.
I'll always be here for you, Jean.
I didn't think this scene had much to improve on, but I am so glad I was wrong. What a fantastic and beautiful way to play with the visuals of Jean's camera footage and really crank up the tearjerker to an 11. Fantastic work. And that wraps up my animation challenge. I had so much fun, and I really hope you all did too. There are links in the description to everyone I showed here today, whether it's their Twitter accounts or their YouTube channels or links to their submissions for this project. Please, everyone, go to these amazing creators and show them some love. Look at the effort they poured into this. Whether it was drawing 1,000,000 pictures or creating a set out of cardboard or doing all the voice work, all of it. Everyone deserves a huge round of applause for participating in this challenge, to flex their creativity muscles and just try their hand at doing a scene differently. Whether it was a huge difference or small differences or whatever. This was not something any of them needed to do, and the fact that you guys did, that was really cool. Thank you. Thank you all so much for participating. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I hope you enjoy all of their videos. I hope you all were able to learn something about animation, or blocking, or storyboarding, or whatever. And if you all would like to see another animation challenge from me in the future, let me know. But again, please, please, please go to everyone who participated here to show them love and support, because they super deserve it. Shout out to my $10 patrons, you're all amazing. Nako, James Dodds, Cool Duck, Andrew, Ramiel, Valhalla Knight, Chamomile, Classy Critic, Noah Perkins, Sunny Shy, Azoth, Great Bar, Pentamenta, Jake, Storm, Amber, Luno, Zero to Hero, Keithan, Isaiah, Joseph, Scaring Crows, Blue Wiz, Danny Boy, Mary, Messiah Complex, Jacob, and Renji. So yeah, like I said, go show them all love and support and appreciation. They all did so good. I'm so impressed with everyone who worked on this. It was not easy, and you all are super cool. In the comments, let me know, what did you think about everyone's different videos? If you want to see another animation challenge, what kind of limitations would you like to put on it? Any and all thoughts and opinions, show your love and support in the comments. I'd love to see them, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.